the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Well, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and I am the Quiet Warrior, and I'm excited to be with you today as a solo cast. Yes, I'll be interviewing myself, I guess. I do solo casts and guest interviews, but this is a very special one, and I'm going to be doing a few things today with you. One is sharing an experience, and first thing is a question. Are you tired of all the COVID-19 posts and people wanting attention by using this on social media to get clicks? I mean, I am. I think there's valid sources of information, and we need to really respond, not react to what's going on around us in the world. But for today, I'm going to be all over COVID-19, and I'm going to share this as an experience with you. And I'm going to be teaching you a model I learned called the triangle of experience. But we'll talk about that in a little bit, because it's that model which I learned just a short while ago that has given me a lot more strength to be able to deal with the reality of what's unfolding in the world. Now, first thing I want to do is say I pray for all those people who are not well, particularly those who now are in critical care. I pray for all my fellow workers and people I know and their families, and just the world in general. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned this week was we can replace worry with prayer. If we haven't prayed for a decade or we don't believe in faith, well, that's your choice. But sometimes in a time like this, if you look back at the Bible and the scriptures, which I'm learning about, I have my Bible in front of me here and I read it every day. I'm learning my faith through some mentoring of a good friend of mine who lives in the United States. He's a fellow author and a pastor. And well, there's a lot we can learn from the scriptures. In fact, if we interpret them and we apply them into real world situations and crises like these, we may be able to navigate our way through based on some of that history. But I digress. What I want to start off with is tell you that one of my best friends I've realized is my little dog, my little pet Shih Tzu, or Shih Tzu if you want to respect the name. Her name's Shadow, and well, I think she's around 14 years old now, which is pretty old in human years. Anyway, she sits beside me on the little bed we have for her. I'm sitting in my living room on my chair. We have lots of glass and light coming in. But I've learned the power of having a pet. I mean, they don't have a brain like humans where they can think about their thoughts. That's why they're so happy all the time, because they don't dwell on their thoughts. And sometimes we can maybe learn to think like a dog. A good friend of mine, Scott McDonald, wrote a book, which I reviewed and talked about with him online, a book called Think Like a Dog. And he has a rescue dog named Sadie, and he started observing. So I digress again. I mean, I'm getting carried away, but my pet Shih Tzu became a pal to me. So what happened this week? Well, like most of the world, one day I woke up and found out that I was asked to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, how did that happen? Well, not to give away all the family secrets, but my son, my wife's son, he is my son by marriage now. He went to Disneyland with members of his family. My granddaughter and his wife and my brother-in-law, and didn't think everything of it. And they came back about a week or so ago. But there was a family gathering in Contact, and I just leave it at that because you can figure that one out. That I do work as a coach and an executive coach, so I can do a lot of that virtually through Zoom video conferencing. But many of you know through my TED Talk and through me coming out of the closet on it that because of my slip and fall and the brain injury that happened to me some 20 months ago, I, on the advice of my doctor, got a side hustle and started working at a big box warehouse in the evening just to get some physical work, keep myself mentally strong. And it was through that something happened this week or so ago where I had phoned in and, number one is have integrity. Don't cheat and try to work your way out of this situation, hiding if you've had any exposure. The World Health Organization confirms, and all the local media that gets direction from the health people, that if you have any suspicion of being exposed possibly in any way, you need to act. So I phoned in and I said, before I come into my shift, this is at the beginning of my work week, I told them what had happened, and it made my head spin. That's how serious that this has become. That I basically was told, don't come in. You need to stay away for 14 days. Call 811, and that was it. I was left like, are you kidding me? I didn't even know what to do other than call 811. So I want to share the experience with you about just how crazy this is, and then really talk about how am I able to respond versus react to all of this. Well, I called 811 and the circuits were busy and it just crashed, and it kept telling me that. And then I called my family doctor, and believe it or not, the assistant picked up and she talked to me, and she said, if you have symptoms that feel like it's in your chest, we want you to call us right away. She said you need to stay home for 2 weeks, do exactly what you've been told. And then learning that my wife was connected to my son as well, now she's had to do the same. So all of a sudden there we were, the two of us, and I guess what could be worse, being married and having forced to spend time together. I mean, that was a blessing in itself, but trust me, everybody, whether you're married or not, being forced to spend 2 weeks solid every hour of the day in a confined space, well, it'll either kill you or it'll make your marriage stronger. But again, there I was, and my doctor confirmed. So I didn't fight it. I literally just started, adapting to it. And so the first day or so, when you're in isolation, you're forced to stay in the confines of your home. It's really kind of fun. I mean, it's like a mini holiday that comes up. But very quickly after that, it gets a little stressful when you start running into some of the routine things you have to do, like groceries, and maybe you had an exercise routine and now you have to find a way to exercise in your home. Even the small things of if you live in a high rise or something where there's common areas, every time you leave and your door, when you come back, and you have to not touch things, wash your hands. I've washed my hands so much, like many of the people listening, that they are dry, and using skin cream, and well, there's just so many things that aren't part of what our normal routine has been. And so it's just a new way of having to live, building some habits. So here I am, and I'm now at the end of week 1, and I'm functioning very well. So I wanted to tell you how I set up the first hour of my day and the last hour of my day. Many of you know from the teaching and work I've done in psychology that those 2 times of the day are the best, because our brain waves tend to be the slowest, and we're more open to receiving information in our other subconscious brains, and it's a perfect time. So here's my morning routine when I get up. We're up in the morning, my wife and I. Now, she works at home in a home office environment for the Royal Bank. So it's been a blessing, because she just started doing that about 2 months ago. So she can still work and get paid and function, and so she doesn't have to worry about going into an office. But when I get up in the morning, one of the things I do is I turn on my cable to the music channel. And you might hear it in the background. I've got a microphone recording it. But I have a channel called Nature. And they call it self-compassion when you do things for yourself, especially in a time of stress. And I love walking in nature, so I thought, maybe I'll bring nature into my home. So the Nature channel's on, if you hear it on the podcast in the background. So right now I can hear birds chirping and just really soft music, maybe some water flowing. And it puts your brain in a state where it's calm and feels really peaceful. That's the first thing. The second is I'm a man of faith, and I'm not overly religious. Don't get me wrong, but it's no different than getting your favorite book out. I have my Bible. I use the Amplified Bible, large print. It's easier to read. And I put that in front of me on my chair, and I'll read a small passage of it just to fill my soul with something from the scriptures that will make me reflect and think of God and something that maybe a higher power that you can turn to when you're in a time of need. And certainly the power of prayer takes over the power of worry sometimes, which is also very positive. And so here I am, and in that first hour, with some breakfast, it's a really wonderful time. Now, if you get up in the morning and you turn on your BlackBerry or your smartphone and the TV to the news channels, you're done. The brain actually will go to negative thinking, and we are wired because of our what's called ancestral or reptilian brains to think the worst. The worst is going to happen, and that's how mankind started on the earth. That there was no power, electricity. They were hunter gatherers, and well, you had to look in the bush, and if there was a pair of red eyes moving. Maybe it was a bear that was going to come and take you down, or maybe, there was some threat and you had to get food for your family. So our brains are wired to always look to negative emotion and negative thoughts first. Don't know if you know that, but that's why people are attached to the news over and over. They watch it. But we have the power to think about our thoughts and control that, change your environment. So I don't turn on the TV. I will not go on social media anymore and look at posts about COVID-19 and things that are put out by people that are not true, because all it does is puts you into a negative train of thought, which brings up poor feelings and emotions and then behaviors, which really lead to not doing good things but doing bad things. So I'll get back to that in a bit about the model I want to share with you. This is how I start my day. At the end of the day, it's no different. There's going to be some nice music, maybe reading a favorite book, no TV, and then settling off to sleep. My wife gave me a present for Christmas, and it was one of those bottles of spray you spray on your pillow. Now, for all the guys listening, you might think that's weird, but I'm doing that. So it's lavender, and lavender produces a nice scent that affects our brain in a positive way. So I'll spray that on Anna's pillow and mine, and it will drift off to sleep. I have a meditation app on my phone. We can turn it on to a deep sleep meditation track, and that'll just take our brains into a deep sleep. So all these things are designed to create an environment. It's almost like a bubble in my home that helps me deal with the negative reality of the world outside. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not ignoring what's happening in the real world. What I'm actually doing is doing what I'm going to teach you in this model, the triangle of experience. I'm giving myself power and setting myself up each day and before I go to bed to actually deal with things that can take down our thinking to negative, that when we are stuck in fear and negative thoughts, our immune systems weaken. And with what's happening around us in the world now, we need to make sure our immune system is very strong. I want to talk about eating. I mean, hydration is very important. So Anna and I have a 2-liter bottle of water each, and you may know this, but your cells, the water you take in today goes into your cells 2 days from now. You have 1 trillion cells or so in your body, and that's how your body basically is built. You want to nourish them, and water is one of the best things. So 2 liters of water, we drink that throughout the day. The other thing I learned from a naturopathic doctor is to have ginger lemon tea. Now, I know there's all sorts of recipes out there, but there's high antioxidants. So I have natural ginger I slice, and then I boil hot water, or I boil water to make it hot, pour it over that in a mug, and put a small wedge of lemon, squeeze it. And my wife and I will drink that every morning, 1 big mug of it. And, if you have a sensitive stomach to the ginger, you maybe have it just once in the day. But we have that, and we also have the water, and then we're eating clean. And so we're being careful not to eat high-fat food, not too much coffee, which is diuretic and keeps you from sleeping. So all these things are connected to why am I telling you about it? But I've consciously now made it a point of giving my immune system, a power boost and doing things with it to strengthen. My thinking was that after this 2 weeks, I want to go back to work and out into the world being invincible, being strong, because we don't know if there's a second wave that's going to hit. And, this thing is evolving, and maybe I'll get exposed to it again. I don't know. So the power of positive thinking. The other thing I decided to do is make a list of the top 10 things I do. And so I put it on social media to inspire people. I had some people say, this is really cool. I'm just going to tell you some of the things. If you're wondering, what do you do with a day when you're home? Well, I still work because I do some coaching. I have to prepare lessons. I do it virtually by my computer. That keeps me busy. But what do I do to create joy and positive feelings? Well, the streets were bare, so in the first couple of days, my wife and I social distance from each other. We went for a walk outside somewhere where there was nobody. And we just walked for a good 45 minutes, and that physical exercise was one of the best things we did. Now, it's getting to a point where they're closing all the parks and things, so we can stay inside our home and walk back and forth or pace or do, planks and exercises. You can do a lot of things in a confined space if you really think about it. If you think about ships where they went to war and soldiers who are inside those tubes, what do they call them? Submarines. They are taught how to actually stay fit in a confined space. So Google it. Find some way in a confined space to do exercise and stay fit. Believe it or not, you can actually sit in a chair like on an airplane. I was taught when I traveled a lot as an exec. You can sit in a chair and do exercises that actually create physical health for your body. So lots of things that you can do there. So the other things I like to do is reading. I'm an author, so I read books. I also do book reviews for people, so I had to catch up on some things. I did some of those. And if you know me and you're on my social media feed, I love to cook. I am a foodie, a home chef. I've decked out my kitchen with gear and have favorite recipes. And my wife, well, she is lucky. I don't think she knows that. But I do all the cooking and ordering the groceries, and I love that. It's my love language. I learned it as a kid. And I think one day I'll go to Europe. I was going to say Italy, not now, and take a course with a world-leading chef, maybe even interview them on my radio show and to inspire other chefs. So cooking is my language. So I've been cooking a lot and finding creative dishes to make. The other day I made duck egg hash. A friend of mine who works with me in this evening side hustle I talked about gave me a bunch of duck eggs, and I've never had duck eggs, so I decided to make duck egg hash with fresh vegetables and stuff, and it was amazing. So I made that to cheer up my wife and I one morning. So you get the picture. Find your joy, find your passion, find something that makes you happy, and put it on your list, and do 1 or 2 things a day that make you happy and smile and inspire you. So you're not caught up in the real world that's around us that unfortunately right now is uncertain. But that will pass. We all know this. Now, the other thing I want to say before I talk about this model to wrap this up is, on a scale of 1 to 10, I found a TED Talk that was done recently on COVID-19 by one of the high-up experts in the science community. And she said on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the most accurate and 1 is the most fake, social media would be 1 and 2 and 3. So if people are posting memes and making dumb comments, don't even look at it because it triggers the thoughts. Number 2, if the World Health Organization was rated on that scale, it would be a 10. So what I do is I've limited my news feed, and I only open up the news feed from the World Health Organization, or if it's our local authorities, our health authority, our health minister from our government, that's all I listen to. So please filter and find the truth, because most of the stuff out there is not true. It's all really not factual. All right, let's get into the triangle of experience. I have it on a poster in front of me here, but I want to just draw it out for you. If you draw a triangle, the top of it, above the triangle, write the word trigger. And in the triangle, on each point, you have the word thoughts. And then down at the bottom on the left, you have feelings, sensations, emotions. On the right, you have behaviors. This is called the triangle of experience. And it's taught to help people cognitively think different. Now, I've mastered it. I've learned it over the last 6 months, and I've mastered applying it. And this is what's got me through the last week and why I am not panicking. And people are saying to me, Tom, how come you're so positive? I'm not smoking anything. There's no crack cocaine in my house. But, so this is what happens. Something triggers a thought, and then we have feelings attached to that, sensations, emotions, and then that creates a behavior. That's basically how our body works. And there's only 2 pathways to get out of that triangle. One is to pause and respond to what's going on, and the second one is to react. And that's usually what we do, is react, because we're on autopilot. We don't think about our thoughts because there's so many of them. We react and we do things like avoid, ruminate, act impulsively, blame, fear. And the consequences of reacting doesn't always work. It mostly doesn't work out well. So what you want to do is find the ability to pause, no matter what the thought is. So let's say the trigger is you see a picture of no toilet paper on the shelf at a big box store. You have that thought. If you don't pause and you get all of a sudden stressed, fearful, and then your behavior is to go out and panic buy, well, probably doesn't work out well. But what you want to do is you want to pause and you want to say, let's take a look at the facts all around that shelf. What's happening? Oh, there's lots of toilet paper coming. I've been told that more truck drivers and the supply chain just choked. And really, if I do need some, I'll buy a package, which is going to last me and my wife maybe 2 months. So I'm not going to panic. Oh, and we're finding out that a lot of people volume buying are reselling it because they're business owners. So that's really not a big issue to say that toilet paper is running out from just human consumption. It's actually the part of the businesses that are also taking responsibility for that. So maybe I won't panic. Maybe I'll put it on my list to get some toilet paper soon. If I have somebody who has some, I'll buy it from them. But I'm not going to go into fear. I'm going to respond to that differently and have a calmer mind about it. So do you get the picture? So what I want you to do as I wrap this up is take every thought that you have about this situation, whether it's worrying about being laid off, or you can't pay your mortgages and bills, or it's about the disease itself, or whatever it is, or if you're starting to feel symptoms, all of that are thoughts. I want you to pause instead of react and analyze all the facts and information. Dig and find as much as you can, and then reach out for help if you need it to properly respond in the best way you can. And practice self-compassion, which is one of the best skills in mental health care, doing things for yourself. I call them, attaboys or good for me's. If you accomplish something like making a bowl of oatmeal in the morning for yourself, that might be your simple good for me. I made my bowl of oatmeal today and ate healthy. So practice good for me's. Practice good for me's all the time, each day. Do self-compassion, things for yourself that make you feel love and joy. And if that's also doing things for other people, that's awesome. Use the triangle of experience. When there's any trigger that happens, creates a thought, feelings, and then behavior comes out of it, I want you to force yourself to take the respond pathway, which is to look at all the facts and respond appropriately based on your values as well. And I want to just say this about that. What if your values was to care for the world and other people? Would it make sense to go out and bulk buy stuff so the people who really need it don't have it? No. So when you're responding also by analyzing the facts of your thoughts, and most of our thoughts aren't true. And then you're responding also based on what your values are. And when you look at things that way, most of what we do is going to change because we know our values are not like they usually are when we're reactive. So don't react. Don't be on autopilot. Pause. Use the gift your brain has to think about your thoughts, and it'll be a better outcome. So everybody, I want you to have an amazing week ahead. This podcast, you'll find it on your favorite podcast station. Find me on Twitter at Tom Dutta to follow me and learn more about what's going on with my podcast. And give it a rating if you can on iTunes or your favorite station to honor my work and so that other people might take a look at it. And live that life that you deserve and desire, and find that true passion and purpose. Some of the things I talked about with you today are mine. And we'll see you again on The Quiet Warrior Show. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca